Howdy, y'all. So, for our spring 2017 GNSS and the Geosciences project, our group, consisting of Marissa English, Alden Griffin, Charles Sassaman, and myself, Nick Smart, we were looking at the efficiency of walking versus biking on campus. So, all of us kind of sat down and really wanted to look at something that would be beneficial to us at the end of this project to see what our results would be. Charles and I are both campus commuters. We go on our bike. I go from West Campus and go in between classes, and Charles does just about the same. Alden and Marissa tend to walk to and from class, so we thought that it would be interesting to compare and contrast the advantages and the disadvantages towards people that regularly walk versus people that regularly bike on campus, and really getting into and putting forth actual values to be able to compare and contrast those rather than just personal opinion. So now for a quick introduction of what we're going to be looking at. Texas A&M is one of the largest universities in the country with a total enrollment of over 60,000 students spanning over 5,200 acres. Ultimately, this means that there can be large distances that students may have to cover to get from one class to another. This leads us to our first question, which is, what are the advantages and disadvantages of walking and biking on campus? One of the first steps we took to see was which parts of the day seem to lead to most congestion on campus. There is a large density fluctuation of students that are on streets and walkways around campus during busy times, which is between class periods, and non-busy times, which is when classes are in session. Therefore, we wanted to look at how biking and walking could be affected by these times of day. These questions led us to our hypothesis. Biking during non-busy times will be faster, while walking will have the advantage during busy times of the day. So in order to test our hypothesis, we had to come up with distinct paths that we would travel. So the first step was to come up with different routes that we would walk and bike at different times of the day. As a group, we determined 3 transverses on campus that we thought would give us the best results. The 3 routes were Hall Booty to Evans, Hall Booty to Sabisa, and Trigon to Blocker. The first route, Hall Booty to Evans, is our short north to south transverse. This route is very interesting due to the fact that a walker can cut through buildings going through Hall Booty to Evans, while a biker is forced to stay on the main routes in order to get to their endpoint. The second route was Hall Booty to Sabisa. This east to west transverse is along a main road on campus, so we thought it would be a great way to see the effect that the traffic and drivers on campus would have on our data. The third route, Trigon to Blocker, is the longest distance and is located along some of the busiest walkways on campus. This was also a test to see how a longer distance would change the efficiency of biking versus walking compared to shorter distances. Once our routes were decided, we then set concise start and end points for each path. In order to be as precise as possible, we picked specific locations to start and end our timers, each run through, the same locations being for both walkers and bikers. While we can't control factors such as weather and events going on campus that day, we could, however, make sure that the same factor would affect the biker and the walker the same way. We did this by recording the walking and biking data simultaneously. For example, a tour going on that clogs up the pathway affected both the walker and the biker on the same run. In order to collect a sufficient amount of data, we decided to do 4 walking and 4 biking runs for both busy and non-busy times along each route. In total, we had 48 collected times. In the chart seen, we averaged the collected data for both busy and non-busy walking and biking paths, so a general pattern could be shown in our results. The result shows in all cases that busy compared to non-busy times does in fact alter the amount of time it takes for a biker or a walker to get to their destination. The only route where walking was more efficient than biking was from Hall Booty to Evans. From Hall Booty to Sabisa, though, biking was only about 20 seconds faster in both busy and non-busy times, whereas from Trigon to Blocker, biking had over a minute advantage. The Hall Booty to Evans path was clearly faster for a walker and only varied around 15 seconds from busy to non-busy times, at least for the walker. This is due to the very quick shortcut that can be taken through the chemistry building. This cuts the distance traveled from 0.22 miles around the chemistry building to about 0.16 miles with the cut through. This distance was then too short for a biker to be able to make up the time it takes for them to unlock their bike, get set, ride, and then relock it. The Halbury to Sabisa path was exactly the same for a walker and a biker. The distance from the front door of Halbury to the entrance of Sabisa was around 0.26 miles. The averages shown that biking was about 20 seconds faster for both busy and non-busy times, but throughout all our corrections, we saw that these times differed greatly between each run. This was due to the fact that this route is along a main one-way road on campus. Buses run along this route as well as many drivers picking up and dropping off others along their route. For a biker, they must follow the rules of the road and stop at the stop signs. Therefore, with a lot of traffic, this could be very costly to their time. On the other hand, walkers have to stop at the intersection and pay close attention to the traffic, especially with the construction and chaos going on in that area right now. Sabisa is also a high-density area filled with people and advertisements, so social interactions were also a factor that slowed down collection times. The Trigon to Blocker path was approximately 0.46 miles for both walkers and bikers. The path was generally the same, but the biker did have to slow down around a few choke points along that path. The first choke point is from the Academic Plaza to the area around the H2O fountain. The second one is the narrow biker path from around the H2O fountain. The last part is the journey down Ireland, where construction has caused the bike lanes to be very slim to pretty much non-existent. So bikers must be extremely cautious in this area. The term choke point is referring to sections of narrow paths where there are higher densities of people. For this path, the average time differences between walking and biking were over a minute in favor of biking at both busy and non-busy times. With the increase in distance, we saw an increase in time difference and an advantage for biking. While we did simultaneously record biking and walking times in this project, as well as a set specific route, there were some factors that we could not control in this project. The pace of walking and biking was a factor that could differ from the results if another group did this project. We decided that we would walk and bike at appropriate and leisurely speeds. In other words, we would blend in with the flow of traffic on campus. One source of error, though, pertaining to pace is that through the varying speeds of pace and stride, our data could be skewed towards faster or slower walkers. The same concept of error also applies to bikers as well. Other sources of variability could be road traffic, as seen in the Halbury to Sabisa route, weather, construction, densities of people, social distractions, such as running into friends or professors on campus, and as explicitly named in the project, the time of day. In conclusion, we have found that for shorter distances, walking proves to be the most efficient way to get around campus. The time it takes for a biker to lock and relock his or her bike takes up too much time compared to a walker that has no other obligations. As distance increases, though, biking slowly becomes much more effective. In longer distances, biking makes up for that extra locking and storage time by being able to move at a much faster speed than a walker can. The advantage of biking includes faster times for long distance routes, whereas the disadvantages of biking are that you might have to be more careful of pedestrians walking, traffic can also back up and cause delays, and that biker has the task of finding a specific spot to store their bike as well as locking it. As for walking, the advantage is that you can get up and go without the task of having to get your bike and dealing with locking it. You can also cut through buildings whereas a bike cannot. Pedestrians also have the right of way on the street, so usually traffic is not as big of an issue for them. The disadvantage, though, is that long distances will take a walk much more time. Therefore, while the time of day does have an effect on the total travel time, the time of day affects biking and walking similarly, so there is not an advantage of biking or walking at any certain time of the day. Instead, the advantages and disadvantages pertain to the distance or route that the student must take during that day. Therefore, future work on this project should be focused on creating more transverses on campus, especially focused on longer distances across campus. This could include expanding the study area to West Campus. By determining more direct routes, this could help students to determine the most efficient way of traveling across campus. If students then know the distances that they will be traveling for the day and the most efficient ways to go, then individuals can then decide whether walking or biking will be the most effective means of transportation for them. Route planning like this would aid in the efficient travel of students and would help to minimize frustration and complication of getting to and from classes, meetings, or other obligations that the students might have on campus.